Welcome to Byte The Future by VirtuAi, the podcast where AI meets innovation. Join us as we explore the cutting-edge world of artificial intelligence and uncover how it's transforming businesses, driving growth, and reshaping our future. From practical strategies to mind-blowing trends, we've got the insights to help you stay ahead in this AI-powered era. Let's decode the future together.
Welcome back to Byte the Future by VirtuAi, where we decode the latest in AI tech. I am your host, Mark. So what's the deal with Deepseek?
Yeah, what's really got everyone's attention with Deepseek is how fast it's just blown up, right? It's like it appeared out of nowhere, and it's got all the same features as ChatGPT, but for a price that's like crazy low.
Yeah, it's kind of freaky how similar this all feels to the whole TikTok thing. You've got this Chinese tech company, and suddenly everyone's using it, and then boom, governments start freaking out about data privacy and security and all that.
Yeah, you're right. The parallels are definitely there. In both cases, you've got a Chinese company that gets super popular all over the world, and then Western governments start worrying about data security and connections to the Chinese government. But the thing is, with DeepSeek, this is AI we're talking about. This could affect way more than just what videos we watch or whatever, right? We're talking about how we communicate, how we work, even how we make decisions. It's a whole other level.
It's wild, right? Actually, Byte the Future had this awesome analogy they were using. They compared DeepSeek to those fake designer bags you see sometimes. Like, they look just like the real thing, but then they fall apart after you use them a couple times. It makes you wonder, is DeepSeek actually something new, or is it more like a copycat, just built using someone else's plans?
It really makes you think. I mean, OpenAI has spent a ton of money and time on research, building their models from scratch, and that's why they charge what they charge. But DeepSeek, it seems like they took the shortcut just copying the features, but way cheaper. So the question is the technology actually different? And what does it mean if you're building on something someone else made instead of making something totally new?
And that brings us to the big issue, security. You can't talk about DeepSeek without talking about that data breach they had, right? I mean, a misconfigured database, exposed user data, even authentication keys. It's like they left everything out in the open.
That breach is a massive warning sign. It shows there are some serious weaknesses in DeepSeek's whole system, and it makes you question how seriously they take security. Going back to that fake designer bag analogy, it's like you buy a fake Gucci bag. It might look great at first, but then the zipper breaks, the stitching comes undone, you realize it wasn't built to last. DeepSeek might look like OpenAI on the surface, but if they can't even get security right, can we trust them with our data?
And then there's the big question that nobody wants to talk about: government oversight. Just the fact that DeepSeek is a Chinese company makes people in the West nervous, especially when you think about China's history with AI and censorship and all that.
Yeah, it adds a whole other layer of complication. China's whole philosophy about AI is different from how the West sees it. They see AI as a way to control society, not just a tool. So you have to wonder about DeepSeek's security features. Are they actually there to protect our data, or are they a way for the government to spy on us?
And speaking of government scrutiny, Byte the Future brought up Italy's decision to just block DeepSeek from their app stores. They straight up said it was because of security concerns. And it doesn't stop there. France and Ireland are now doing their own investigations too. Seems like Western countries are really hesitant about DeepSeek.
Yeah, that ban in Italy is huge. It shows that there's a lot of distrust towards DeepSeek in the West. And who knows, maybe those investigations in France and Ireland could lead to more bans. That would mean DeepSeek loses a huge chunk of users. So the big question is, can DeepSeek overcome all these political and regulatory hurdles? Or will they end up like TikTok? You know, the thing about this whole DeepSeek situation is it really makes you think about what's important to us in AI, right?
Yeah.
Are we okay with sacrificing security and transparency just to get our hands on the latest and greatest tech? Or would we rather pay a little extra to know that our data is safe and things are being done right?
Yeah, that's a great point. It's kind of like choosing between a generic drug and the name brand, right? Maybe they both have the same stuff in them, but can you really be sure the generic one is just as good and safe? It's a risk, you know?
Totally. And with AI, the stakes are so much higher. We're not just talking about our health here. We're talking about our data, our privacy, even our freedom to think and say what we want.
Yeah, about that freedom of thought thing, Byte the Future made a really interesting point about DeepSeek being developed in China and how that might affect what it says, especially about sensitive stuff. What do you think about that?
It's a valid concern, for sure. We know China has a totally different approach to censorship and information control compared to a lot of Western countries. Their internet is heavily censored. The government controls what people can see and access. It's not hard to imagine that those same restrictions could be applied to AI models developed there.
So if someone is using DeepSeek, are they basically putting themselves under the same censorship rules? Are they only getting a limited view of things shaped by what the Chinese government wants them to see?
It's a definite possibility that users need to consider. Like, if you're using DeepSeek for research, you need to remember that the information you're getting might not be the whole story. It might be biased or censored to fit the Chinese government's narrative.
This reminds me of another similarity to the whole TikTok thing. At first, people thought, oh, it's just a fun app for dancing videos. But then we found out TikTok was collecting a ton of data on its users. Location, contacts, even browsing history. TikTok turned out to be way more than just a harmless app. It was a powerful tool for collecting data.
Exactly. And it could be the same with DeepSeek. On the surface, it looks like another AI chatbot that's fun to talk to. But underneath, it could be gathering a ton of data on its users, their interests, their beliefs, even their weaknesses.
And that data could be used for all sorts of things, some of them not so good, like targeted advertising, influencing elections, even controlling people's behavior.
Right. That's exactly why it's so important to understand the risks of using DeepSeek. It's not just about what it can do right now, but about what could happen in the future if you give your data to a company that operates under a totally different political system.
So it seems like with DeepSeek, we're facing a classic dilemma: convenience versus the risk of compromise. We're tempted by how cheap and easy it is to use, but we have to be aware of the potential costs to our security, privacy, and even our freedom of thought.
You nailed it. It's a complicated issue with no easy answers. But by having these conversations, by making people aware of the risks, and by demanding more transparency from companies like DeepSeek, we can hopefully make smarter choices about how we use these powerful technologies.
So let's shift gears a bit and talk about Italy's decision to ban DeepSeek. This seemed like a pretty big deal, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. Italy banning DeepSeek is a major turning point. It's a clear sign that there's growing distrust in Western markets. They specifically said it was because of security concerns. And now other countries like France and Ireland are starting their own investigations. The question is, will this start a domino effect? Will other countries do the same thing?
It's definitely possible. If these security worries and the lack of transparency keep going, DeepSeek could find itself shut out of Western markets. Governments might bring in tougher rules or even outright bans like we saw in Italy.
And that would be a huge blow to DeepSeek. It would really limit their growth and might even force them to just focus on the Chinese market. And that could have a big impact on the whole global AI scene.
It's almost like we're watching a tug-of-war playing out in the digital world,
Yeah.
with DeepSeek caught in the middle. On one side, there's the appeal of cheap and accessible AI. On the other, there are these growing concerns about security, privacy, and government control.
Exactly. And it's not just a battle of technology, it's a battle of ideas and values. The way this plays out will have a huge impact on how AI is developed and used in the future.
So why should our listeners care about this AI showdown happening on the other side of the world? What does it mean for them?
The future of AI isn't just about which company makes the best chatbot or the coolest image generator. It's about who gets to set the rules, who controls the information, and who benefits from this technology.
It's about whether AI will help us work together and make progress, or whether it will be used to divide us and control us.
Exactly. And the choices we make today, as consumers, as citizens, as a global community, will shape that future. We need to stay informed, stay involved, and be careful about how we judge these new technologies.
That's a powerful message. So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive into DeepSeek, we want to leave our listeners with a question. Would you trust DeepSeek with your data, knowing all the potential risks and benefits?
What are you willing to give up for the sake of convenience and affordability? What do you think about the future of AI in a world that's increasingly divided by politics and different ways of thinking?
These are tough questions with no easy answers, but they are questions we all need to think about as AI becomes a bigger and bigger part of our lives.
DeepSeek is going through it right now, aren't they? It's like they've got this amazing tech that's shaking things up, but everyone's so skeptical.
Yeah, it's a real trial by fire for them. They've got a great product, but people just don't trust them the way they trust the bigger names.
And it all comes down to trust, doesn't it? It's not just about whether DeepSeek's tech works. It's about whether we believe they'll use it responsibly.
Absolutely. It's like, imagine you're going to share your deepest secrets with someone. You want to be sure you can trust them, right? Same with AI. We're giving these models our data, our creativity, sometimes even letting them help us make decisions. We need to know they've got our best interests in mind.
But that's the hard part, right? AI is so new and it's changing so fast. We don't have any real rules or regulations yet. It's kind of like the Wild West out there.
Yeah, Great analogy. It's a gold rush. Everyone's trying to get rich quick, and there's a lot of excitement, but also a ton of risk. So how do we make sense of all this? How do we make sure AI is used to help people, not hurt them?
That's the big question, isn't it? I think it starts with educating people. We got to make sure everyone understands how AI works, the good and the bad, and how it's already a part of our lives.
And it's not just about each of us understanding it. We need to be having these conversations as a society, in our governments, our schools, everywhere. We need to figure out some ethical guidelines, some rules for how AI should be developed and used.
Absolutely. And we need to get input from all kinds of people when we're making those rules. We can't just let a few tech companies decide the future of AI. We need ethicists, social scientists, policymakers, and regular people too.
It sounds like a lot, but it's also pretty exciting. We're at the beginning of something huge, and we have a chance to make it good for everyone.
Totally. It's like we're at a fork in the road. One path leads to fear and suspicion. The other leads to cooperation and progress.
And that's a wrap on today's Byte the Future by VirtuAi. What do you think? Is DeepSeek a revolutionary AI model or just another too-good-to-be-true knockoff? Would you trust it with your data? Let us know on social media.
And don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and tune in next time, because the future is closer than you think.